Namaste and welcome to this week's class. This is class 2 in establishing a personal practice. And we're going to assume that today you've got tired legs. You've got aching legs, or maybe you've got an injured ankle or an injured knee, or your legs are just feeling heavy. And perhaps it's better not to start standing. So you don't have to sit on the floor like I am. The chair is perfectly adequate. I would suggest that if the chair is a little high and your feet don't comfortably touch the ground, that you put something under your feet, a block or a small pile of newspapers or something firm so that you can press your feet into the floor. And we're going to start with those same moving away with the arms and bending forwards, just to initiate a fuller breath. So perhaps if you're nearly comfortable sitting cross-legged, but perhaps one of your hips does not allow the thigh bone to rotate down so that you're sitting in a balanced way, then I suggest that you pop something under one or both legs so that you can press down firmly. If you're sitting on a chair, this is a much easier thing to achieve because you can press down the backs of the thighs into the chair. Now, don't for any moment think that sitting on a chair is wimping out in any way. It's absolutely not. In yoga, we need to be steady and comfortable, or firm and easy, however you like to think of it. So if you're not firm or comfortable before you start, you're not giving yourself a good foundation upon which to build your practice. So if sitting cross-legged is not an option, then just let that go. You know, it will come. If you look after the spine, if you stay steady and comfortable in your practice, then the muscles will gently and slowly and progressively release, and you will eventually be able to sit cross-legged. So, however you choose to sit, on the chair or on a floor, or like me, supported on the floor, we need to just check that we're upright. And as I said, we're going to start with those gentle stretches, moving the limbs away from the body, so that we enhance our natural breath quite effortlessly, without struggle. So what I suggest you do is bring the chin down, and we'll start where we did last week by lengthening the back of the neck and the chin coming down without rolling forwards. We'll put that fold into your throat. And again, if you find it helpful to put one hand on the chest and one hand on the belly below the navel, then that's a fine place to start. And we're going to start by, first of all, noticing the breath that we're breathing now. And that changes every day. So there's no need to try and force it or edit it in any way. And because you're sitting, you may choose to prefer, or you may prefer to choose to work with your eyes closed, and that's absolutely fine. So I'm starting to generate that sound of the breath in the throat, almost as if I'm going to make a noise. So I'm just about to engage the larynx, but I don't. So that I have that soft sighing sound in the ears. Noticing how the chest lifts and the upper hand lifts as you inhale, and drawing the belly inwards and upwards as you exhale. Inhale, chest rising. Exhale, belly moving backwards and upwards. And finding your way with the breath. So you're not trying to force the breath. You're not trying to move beyond where you're comfortable. Chest expanding, breathing in. And belly contracting, breathing out. So we're going to begin the class by just making a movement with the head. We're going to let the skull rock backwards and forwards on the top of the neck, on the atlas vertebra. So maybe have your hands on the knees or in your lap. And as you breathe in, lifting the chin and the chest, maybe you'll take your eyes up towards the ceiling. And as you breathe out, bringing the chin down. Gazing towards that disappearing navel. Again, trying to keep all of the movement you're making within the envelope of the breath. So the breath starts and completes every movement. Front body expanding on the inhale. Navel to spine on the exhale. So though it's only a small movement, and again, if you notice you're rocking your weight back and forward, try not to. Try and keep the feet pressing into the floor, the backs of the thighs pressing evenly into the seat. Notice the spine gently moving. Notice how the front of the spine stretches a little bit as the chest lifts. Notice how the back of the spine shortens. And notice how the back of the spine lengthens as you bring your chin down. Just taking your time, establishing that movement within the breath. And And then the next few breaths, you can come back to what feels like a neutral position. And maybe have a sigh or a swallow, just to make sure there's no tension in the throat. So from here, you can bring one of your hands beside you. So it'll either touch the floor or the fingertips will touch the floor alongside you if you're sitting on the floor, or it'll be hanging at your side if you're sitting on a chair. So again, we need to stay steady. So avoid leaning to the side. Try and keep your weight even in the sit bones or the back of the thighs, or both feet if you've got your feet on the floor. And inhale. You can take the arm up. Follow it upwards with your eyes, and exhale. Bring that arm down. Inhale, palm up. Exhaling, bringing the arm down. So here you might learn a little bit about habits that you may have gotten into. If you find that you are perpetually ignoring the breath and continuing to stretch beyond the breath so that you can reach a better looking or a deeper stretch, try not to, Try and keep all of the movement within the breath. Moving the arm away from the body like this is creating a bit more space for the breath in. Perhaps moving the eyes up and down is giving your neck a gentle stretch. And you're still using your girdle. You're still drawing the navel back to the spine and using your girdle to stay upright so that you don't lean. Your girdle, if you like, is like the brakes here. One more time. Arm lifting away from the body so you can stretch into that rib cage as you inhale. And arm coming beside you as you exhale. And again, take a few breaths here. You can put your hands in your lap or back on your knees. And take a few breaths just to explore the sensations in that side of the body, in the shoulder and the hand, the side of the chest. And then the other hand hanging at your side or touching the floor beside you. Bring the chin down and to the side so you can gaze at those fingers. And when you're ready, breathing in, using the in-breath to lift the hand. And the breath out to come back to neutral. Breath starts and completes every movement. We're discovering a comfortable range of movement. Within the flow of your breath today. Now, perhaps if there was a big difference between the range of movement in the right arm and the left, you may choose, after a short pause, coming back to neutral and chin to the throat, back to neutral. You may decide to continue to work one arm at a time. Why not? Working one arm at a time will enable each arm to enjoy that maximum range of movement. But assuming everything is good on both sides, there's no pain or discomfort in the shoulders, both hands beside the body, fingertips on the floor or hanging at your side if you're on a chair, pressing the sit bones and whatever is in contact with what's underneath you. So the backs of the thighs and the feet if you're on a chair, the shin bones, the knees, the thighs if you're sitting on the floor, and then lift both arms, inhaling. And chin down, arms down, exhaling. So the breath starts and finishes every movement. And there's nothing rigid in the arms or hands that's causing any unnecessary tension. And you can feel that lift of the chest, that little bit of tension in the back to carry the weight of the arms. And engaging the girdle as you breathe out and bring the chin down. And whenever your arms get heavy, perhaps you find you're reluctant to lift them, then simply don't. You can place them back in your lap or hands on the thighs or the knees. And we'll take a few breaths here. So from here, if you're sitting on a chair, you might want to take your feet a bit wider. That will help you keep your balance. If you want to uncross and cross your legs the other way, if you're sitting on the floor, then that might be an idea. But again, we want to start from an upright position, a vertical spine, pressing into the floor or the chair beneath you. I'm going to put my right fingertips on the floor beside me. If you're sitting very high on a block, you might need a block under your hand, or you could use your knuckles. And I'm going to move the left arm I'm going to move the left arm. I'm going to follow it with my eyes because my neck is moving okay. So starting with the fingertips down, holding the floor or touching the floor or holding the side of the chair, and take that arm all the way up on the breath in. And then maybe soften that hand into the floor, bending the elbow, holding the chair. Bring the chin down to look to the right as you exhale. Inhaling back up to neutral. And exhale that arm down to rest. So continuing to work on the same side. Every time you inhale, you open up that side of the rib cage, maybe lifting the chin, opening the throat. Every time you exhale, you bring the chin down to minimize stress in the neck, and you soften that arm, reaching into the stretch, belly to the spine. So for the bend, we're using the exhale. That means we're using our natural girdle to support the lumbar spine. Belly to spine as you reach. And all the while, trying to discover what's a comfortable stretch for you today within the envelope of that breath. Now, if that stretch feels comfortable, then you might want to stay there. You might want to modify it to make it easier to stay there. So this time, as I stretch, I'm going to put the hand over my head, and I'm going to let the weight of the head drop into my hand a little bit. If you feel that upper elbow dropping forward, then you're avoiding the stretch. So find the muscles in the back to keep the chest open. If you're sitting on the floor, you may want to move your hand further away, but make sure you don't lift your left hip. Keep the left hip firmly placed on the floor. And taking a few breaths here. And feel that stretch moving into that left side of the body. Chest opening as you inhale. Using the girdle on the exhale. Whenever you're ready, you can use an inhale to come all the way back up. And come back down to rest. And again, take 2 or 3 breaths just to feel the sensation and the difference that that stretch made. And let the muscles in the spine relax. So let's go the other way then. Left hand on the seat of the chair, both feet, both thighs pressing into the chair or the floor. Right hand's going to move this time. So you can take your chin to the right to look at the right hand touching the floor. Inhale into the stretch and softening. Using the exhale to create that bend. Down to the left as you exhale. Up towards the ceiling as you inhale. Down to the right when you come back to neutral. And again, having explored this movement, having explored how that stretch feels, if you wanted, perhaps stay here. Again, you could put your hand over the head so the fingertips come closer to the ear. You could let your head drop into that hand. You might want to move the hand further away if you're on the floor, or bend the elbow further if you're sitting on a chair. As long as you don't let go of the floor with that right hip, as long as you don't avoid the twist, avoid the stretch by twisting. And find the muscles you need to inhale and open that chest. Using the girdle to support the spine on the breath out. And whenever you're ready, use an inhale to come back to neutral. Use the exhale to bring the arm down to rest. And again, if you want to release your legs, change your cross-legged position. Have a little rock from side to side so that you know you're still sitting in your upright position. Please do. So now we're going to roll the shoulders. Shoulders come up. Inhaling as you lift the chest. And bringing them down and backwards as you breathe out. Forward and upwards, breathing in. And back and down, breathing out. Maybe use half an arm. Elbows up and back, breathing in. Elbows down and forward, breathing out. Notice how you might be continuing that wave of movement up through the bones of the neck. Gazing gently up as you breathe in and gazing gently down as you breathe out. And again, it's pointless me saying you do this 4 times, 5 times, 10 times. You do it for as long as you are comfortable until your arms feel heavy. And when they do, you let them rest. You perhaps sigh or swallow or yawn any tension away from the throat and come back to neutral. So right hand on the seat of the chair behind the hip, or you could even put it behind the back. Maybe the back of the hand against the back of the body. I prefer to have my fingertips on the chair or on the floor. And we're going to use the left hand. So inhaling, moving that left hand away from the body, palm forward. You might find a natural urge to look at it. And as you exhale, drawing the belly back towards the spine, you bring that left hand to touch the right shoulder. Perhaps following that hand with your gaze. Let the breath in as you move the hand away from the body and feel the twist. As you breathe out. Now, if I feel this hand, the right hand on the floor beside me, is weight bearing as I move into that twist, I know that I'm leaning. So this right hand is helping me stay upright. And again, if you wanted to, you could stay in that twist. So feel the chest lift towards the arm on the inhale. Maybe tighten the twist by gazing over your shoulder on the exhale. Making the twist a little easier. To allow that breath in and deepening the twist on the breath out. And when you finish that, in the next few breaths, come back to neutral, left hand on the chair, behind the back or alongside you, just behind the hip. Right arm moving away from the body to welcome the breath in and moving across you so that right hand gently touches the left shoulder as you exhale. Perhaps following that hand with your eyes. again, if you're moving effortlessly in this asana and perhaps you want to hold it, make sure you're not leaning to the left. And every time you breathe in, make the pose a little easier as that chest lifts towards your arm. And tightening the twist if you choose on the exhale. Still using that breath engine. Chest is lifting, using the muscles in the back as you inhale, making the pose a little easier. And the girdle and the gaze. Perhaps deepening that twist on the breath out. And in the next few breaths, remember this is your practice. You can gently and slowly come back to neutral, perhaps release those legs if you've been cross-legged, and you can give them a wobble. Whether or not you're sitting on the floor or a chair, you could extend those legs in front of you and give your feet a waggle, or toes a bit of a squeeze. Whether or not you're sitting on a chair, you could wobble the thighs, restoring the blood flow into the legs, giving the knees a rub. So those movements were all about enhancing the breath. So try not to move too quickly. If you're sitting on a chair, you'll need to dispose of the chair now, move it out the way, and have your mat on the floor so that we can work a little from the floor. And don't forget, we're going to try and bring some energy to those legs. So we're going to start off semi-supine, back to the floor with the knees bent. Again, put something behind the head so that you avoid that crick in the neck. Again, if you find yourself resisting being comfortable, why is that? Notice these habits we've gotten into. So back of the neck long, feet on the floor, find comfortable footprints. And just let that breath settle. So much like we did with our arms when we were sitting, we're going to lift the legs on the in-breath. Okay, so it's much easier, again, to do this one leg at a time. So lift up the right leg, knee to the chest. And as you inhale, we're going to move that foot further away from you. Exhale, bring the knee to the chest. Again, don't find yourself, or notice if you have an urge to lock that knee and make that leg rigid. Try not to. It doesn't have to be a straight leg. Inhale, foot up. Chest lifting as the foot lifts. Girdle moving inward and upwards as that foot comes down. So there's no weight on that leg apart from the weight of the leg itself. There's no pressure on the joint, in the knee, or in the ankle. So again, if we are working on the assumption that your legs are feeling tired, then maybe don't keep it extended without support. So if you wanted to keep the leg extended, you could put the hands behind the thigh just to support the weight of the leg. Again, if that causes you to lift your neck and shoulders, then use a strap. Make sure you haven't rolled to the right. And take a few breaths here. Chest lifting as you inhale. Belly back towards the spine as you exhale. And if you're finding this easy and effortless, then maybe just create a little bit of movement by rotating your foot. Not the whole leg. Keep the knees steady, keep the thighs steady in the hands. And as you're breathing in and out, you're gently rotating that foot, drawing small circles with your toes. And in the other direction. And as soon as your leg starts to feel heavy, or perhaps the breath is getting a bit ragged, or your lumbar spine might be starting to pinch, all you need to do is let go of it gracefully and put that foot down, hands away from the body, palms up. And again, take a few breaths to rest and notice that effect of that asana. Maybe the left and right hip prints feel different. Maybe the left and right footprints feel different. Certainly there'll be all sorts of sensations going on down that right side, the right leg. So pick the foot up, left foot this time. Left thigh to the belly. Inhale, foot to the ceiling. Exhale down to that neutral position. Keeping all of the movement comfortable and within the envelope or frame of that breath. Toes up as you lift the chest, breathing in. Foot down as you exhale and draw the girdle back to the spine. You can keep it working up and down if that feels right for you. Or perhaps using your hands or a strap to support the weight of that leg. Check the back is balanced and take a few breaths here, either with the leg completely still but not rigid, or circling that ankle. changing directions to make sure you don't miss anything out. And only keeping that leg elevated for as long as it's comfortable. Again, notice those habits. If you find yourself grinning and bearing it or gritting your teeth to keep that leg elevated, then please don't. Give in gracefully. So as soon as that leg feels uncomfortable or heavy, fold it, find the floor with the foot, and then rest. Feeling the effects of that stretch on your hip print, on the sacrum, on the back print, on the sole of the foot, and the sensations in the leg. Okay, just as we did with the shoulders then, we're going to just loosen up the hips a bit by moving the knees in a circular direction. So we start off with the knees at the chest and a hand on each knee, and there's no need to extend your knees so far away from you that your knees slide out of your hands. Palms on the knees is quite good enough. Inhaling, knees come a bit wider. So you're moving the knees away from the body as you inhale. And as you exhale, you bring the knees together or a little closer and to the chest. So inhale the knees away from you or widening. Exhale, knees together, closer and closer to the chest. Chest lifting as you widen the knees. And girdle working, breathing out, perhaps flattening that lumbar spine. So you may notice the tilt of the pelvis here is causing your spine to gently lift as you inhale and move your knees wider. And how the abdominal muscles, the girdle, is causing the back to flatten as you bring your thighs closer. Allowing the breath to start and finish every movement. And pausing when the breath is pausing. And then just for good practice, make sure we didn't do anything all right. We can rotate the thigh bones the opposite way. And make a few circles in the opposite direction with your breath. And your hands are there not to push the legs farther apart, but to help the girdle bring them back again safely without trembling or effort. Flattening the lumbar spine on the exhale and lifting the lumbar spine as the belly lifts on the inhale. And then very gently and slowly, in the next few breaths, You can stop moving. You can park your feet on the floor where they feel comfortable. Hands and elbows facing upwards. Repark the chin, so the chin is down towards the chest. So there's that gentle fold in the throat. And take a few breaths here. Again, notice the sensations. Notice how the pelvis is aligning. Notice how the footprints feel. So from here, you bring your feet closer together. So you've got your feet side by side. And then we're going to lift the left leg over the right leg. So you've got your thigh resting on top of the other thigh. Now, some of you might be able to lift up the left or the right foot and tuck your foot behind the calf muscle. So you're able to squeeze the legs together. Again, if it's uncomfortable for you for any reason, you could simply have the legs partly crossed and squeeze the legs together. So just making sure the legs are comfortable, whether they're wrapped or crossed. Again, you may want to extend that right foot further away or have it closer to you to enhance that squeeze. And we're going to lift the pelvis or tilt the pelvis, breathing in. And squeeze the legs as you roll that spine towards the floor. Relax the legs, tilt the pelvis, breathing in. Roll over the tailbone, so you're lifting the spine a little bit. And squeeze the legs. One thigh pressing on another as you exhale. We're squeezing the legs together. It's encouraging you to use those muscles right at the bottom of the abdomen, engaging the pelvic floor. Everything softens a bit as you breathe in, and everything tightens a little as you breathe out. And again, make sure you're not using any unnecessary effort. The arms, the shoulders, and particularly the jaw stay relaxed. And then release the legs in the next breath or two. Again, park your feet about hip width away from each other and take a few breaths to rest. And again, notice the effects. Feel the sensations in the legs. I'm waiting for everything to settle. So feet together. This time we're going to park the right leg over the left. Again, you may be able to wrap your foot around the back of that left calf, but it doesn't matter if you can't. Maybe squeeze a blanket between your legs if having the legs crossed like this is uncomfortable. And again, roll the spine off the floor so you tilt the pelvis, lifting the belly, breathing in, and squeezing, breathing out. Belly rising, spine rising, inhaling. Belly and pelvic floor lifting, drawing upward and inwards as you exhale. But again, don't be squeezing so hard. You're clenching your jaw, or the breath is trembling or shaking. Nothing excessive. Again, when you finish working, uncross the legs, footprints on the floor, hip width apart. And take a few breaths to rest. So from here, I'll ask you to roll onto your right side. Again, it might be comfortable for you to lift your upper body and rest on the elbow. And let's just assume that that's not comfortable for your side, your shoulder, your neck. So again, here I've got a handy hidden tip. You can put something like a pillow. This is quite soft. It's a bean bag inside actually. So I can rest my head in my hand. That means my neck is completely untroubled. And I've got my hips, my shoulders, my hips and my feet roughly in a straight line. I'm going to put my left hand in the waist. And I'm going to inhale. Move my left leg up like a clam. Exhale, bring the leg down. So if you notice you're overdoing this, what you'll find is that you're rolling back just to lift the leg a little further. Again, that's no point in doing that. Okay, we're using the muscles on the outside thigh and the hip. Not the muscles in the back. Knees apart, breathing in. Leg gently coming back to neutral on the out breath. So again, I'm using those muscles on the outside of the hip to rotate that thigh bone away from me. Without any pressure on the knees or any weight in the legs. I mean, you feel tired and that leg feels heavy and you're reluctant to lift it, or maybe it shakes as you lift it. Roll onto your back. Come back to your neutral position. And take those few breaths to rest. Feel the sensations on that left side. when you're ready, you can roll onto the left side. Again, you might need a blanket or a cushion rather than your elbow to support the weight of your upper body, feet, hips and shoulders in alignment, supporting the weight of your head. Right hand on the right waist. Keep the feet together, lift the leg away from the lower leg on the inhale and bring the leg down on the exhale. It's extremely good for the hips without putting any pressure on difficult knees. Inhale, knees apart. Exhale, let that leg come down to rest. Again, as soon as you feel that leg feels heavy or it's shaking as you lift it, come down to rest. Roll back onto your spine. Both legs into neutral, knees at the ceiling, feet at the floor. And again, take that rest. Notice the effects of that stretch. So we've worked quite hard with those outside muscles in the spine. So now I'm going to suggest that you maybe use your cushion, your pillow, to support the legs. So here, again, this pillow is quite a nice one because it's a nice round shape. You might want one pillow under the right thigh and another pillow under the left thigh. Again, hands are away from the belly and the body. And those muscles, which we were just using to engage and lift the thighs, we're letting them relax. They'll be inclined to relax anyway because presumably they've worked. And again, you can feel there's a little bit of space, maybe arching the back away from the floor as you inhale. Belly rising, draw the navel back as you exhale. So there's a little bit of lift in the lumbar spine here. Unlikely, unless you're overdoing things, your spine will roll back to the floor. So you may want to put your hands or a small blanket rolled up behind you just to support that lumbar spine. Because the pelvis is slightly tilted. Belly rising on the breath in. Deepening that arch of the back and drawing the navel, pelvic floor inward and upwards as you exhale. Again, you might need to adjust how close your feet are to each other and how far they are away from your groin. You may need more support under one leg than the other. So one of the very many variations of Konasana. Any tension, any gripping of the buttocks and the thigh muscles, you can let that go now. And because the weight of the legs is supported, you can let those leg bones drop. This is a gentle back arch, or at least it should be. So if your back is arching and pinching, you know you're working too hard. You know you need more support under those thighs. And when you're done with Konasana, again, you can move very gently, one at a time, remove your support. Bring those knees to the chest. Hands on the knees. Knees are comfortable width apart. And inhale, roll the knees away, arching the spine gently. Exhale, knees to the chest as you flatten the back and draw the navel inward and upwards. So again, don't be tempted to let those knees travel beyond the hands. It's quite sufficient for our purposes for this counter pose to have the palms flat on the kneecaps, which will limit your movement and ensure that counter pose is gentler than the pose itself, so we can ease away any tension. Knees move forward as you inhale, and thighs towards the belly as you exhale. And when you and your back and your breath are feeling steady, then you can let this go. Park your feet on the floor. Again, knees bent, so the knees are looking at the ceiling and the footprints are on the floor. Palms and elbows facing upwards away from the body, neck long. Feel the sensations. Watch the breath moving. Let everything settle. And then when you are ready, because we started with the assumption that we had tired legs, I suggest you use either a bolster or a couple of thick blankets or a pillow behind the thighs, so the legs aren't fully extended, they're supported. Alternatively, you could shuffle over towards a wall and have your feet on a wall. Or you can use a chair or a footstool and put the backs of your calves on a chair or a footstool, the seat of a chair or a footstool. Whatever. You can also rest with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. You might, however, want to put your socks on or cover up. But we're going to take a little while just to rest. So you've got plenty of time. There's no hurry. You don't want to move so quickly that you disturb that breath you've been nurturing. So our sadhana today was aiming to be kind to the legs. So we're going to start our focus for the relaxation in the legs. So again, there's no wrong or right here. And when you meet these sensations, I'm going to direct your attention towards. Try not to make any judgments. Don't be self-critical. Notice the sensations as they actually are. So wherever your feet are, whether they're elevated, whether they're resting on a wall, whether they're resting or hanging off the edge of a chair or on the floor, I'm going to ask you to draw your attention to the right footprint and just notice any sensations in the right foot. And if you need to adjust, move that footprint slightly so it's more comfortable, please do. And then let's move to the left foot. So taking a few deep breaths, let your mind wander all the way down to the sole of the left foot. And again, notice any sensations. Really feel your footprint and any adjustment you want to make. Make it now. And then it does help to have the legs elevated, bent knees. So the legs are either supported on a chair or up the wall, or from behind by the thighs, or just by simply having the feet on the floor and the knees raised. I'm going to ask you now to focus into the calf muscles. And just notice any tendency to be gripping that calf bone and allow those calf muscles to soften. So if you have the backs of the calves on the chair, they'll squidge a bit. If you have your legs elevated and the calf muscles are loose, they'll just be gently hanging off the calf bone, shin bone. So taking a few breaths here, just breathing and letting go of those calf muscles. And then the same with the thigh muscles. If the thigh bones are vertical or approaching vertical, if they're resting with a pillow or a rolled up blanket or bolster behind them, we want to take a few breaths here, just taking the luxury of time to soften those thigh muscles. The more vertical the thighs are, the more those thigh muscles might feel like Nora Batty's stockings, just loosening and sliding off the bone. Just taking a few breaths here to soften those thighs. Let those thigh muscles let go of the bone. And we know from our practice that every breath we take, we breathe in fresh prana. So perhaps you can imagine that your legs are just skin. There's nothing inside them. They're just hollow. And you might need to use your imagination here. And imagine that you're breathing in. Let's start with the right leg. Breathe in all the way down, as far down that right leg as you can manage. And as you breathe out, let any tension drain out of the leg, drop out of the leg, downwards into whatever is supporting the leg from beneath it. So I'm going to take a few breaths here, breathing fresh prana into that hollow right leg, all the way down to the toes if you can. And every breath out, you release any tension, any tiredness into the floor, the chair, bolster, whatever is behind the leg supporting it. So you're feeding that leg with fresh energy, fresh prana. Receiving fresh prana on the inhale. Releasing tension on the exhale. Again, notice any sensations. Maybe there's some tingling. Maybe there's a sense of aliveness. Breathe fresh life into that right leg. Okay, let's turn our attention to the left leg. So imagining that left leg is hollow. No bones, no muscles, no tissues, just skin. Let your mind wander down the leg as you breathe in. And let tension drain out of the legs as you exhale. Strength, receiving on the inhale. Breathing fresh life into that leg. And letting go of anything you don't need on the breath out. Receiving and releasing. Notice any sensation in that leg. Notice how it might be responding. Any tingling. Any sensations in the skin. And then perhaps you might want to use or feed both legs. So both legs are hollow, remember. Breathe all the way beyond the lungs, down through the hips, through the thighs, down through the knees, to the ankles, to the toes. Sweeping that prana all the way down from nostrils to the soles of your feet. And letting that prana flow out, taking with it anything you no longer need. Feed those legs with fresh energy, fresh life. in. You may want to keep this practice going. But if there's something that keeps distracting you, something about your legs, perhaps a sore knee or a sore ankle, something that's begging for some attention, allow it. And let your attention wander there, bringing fresh life and healing to anything sore. Welcoming prana, releasing apana. Balancing tension with attention. Breathing fresh life into those legs. And then you can let this effort go. Embrace the stillness of the legs. Feeling the sensations of life within the legs. And perhaps wishing those legs well. Allowing them a chance just to rest in this peaceful stillness and do absolutely nothing at all. So I will just remind you that this is your practice. You're not in any cold and dingy village hall. You don't have to go anywhere anytime soon. You can rest for as long as you choose in this peaceful place that you have nurtured, that our practice has led us to. And when you do decide to move, please come back to life gently and slowly. And from the bottom of my heart, and from my heart to yours, I'd like to share this peaceful feeling with you and with all other beings. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Namaste.